I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to Conscious 2. My guests in studio today are Karen Johnson and Hamid Ali. Hi guys, welcome.
Hey, Alex.
And in today's interview, we're going to be exploring how life can be used as its own spiritual practice, as opposed to other paths that can teach us that we have to step away from and abandon daily life to wake up to who we really are. How can we really use the noise and the challenges and complexities of life as its own path of awakening? But perhaps before we come to that, maybe just as a starting point, people which are new to the diamond approach, maybe not sure exactly kind of what it is, what's the essence of the diamond approach?
It's the essence of it is to find what is the truth of our experience, truth of any moment, what of our experience, because we have all kind of experience, but what truth means, what does it mean, what's it about? And using that as an initial data that help us navigate our experience in life, so that experience becomes deeper and shows more authenticity and realness, and the point of how to be truly ourself, our real self in our life, so our life can have more fulfillment, more actualization of potential, and a peacefulness with ourselves, and with and a good contribution to humanity and a good relationship to other human beings.
So there's an essence of using experience rather than trying to change experience or escape from or get away from experience.
Right. It's not we're not trying to get anywhere in particular. In fact, at the beginning, we didn't know there was anything to get to. We'd had spiritual experiences, dabbled in various things. But there was a great interest just in where we were. So sometimes when I think of the essence of the diamond approach, it has to do with really self-respect and not neglecting any part of ourselves. Whatever we're feeling, whatever we're thinking, whatever we're sensing, all is information that's bubbling up from within, sending messages in whatever way that comes to us. If we're having a reaction to somebody, if we're feeling bad about something, if we're feeling hurt by an interaction of some kind, all of that is some way that we can enter into our experience. And respect it means to embrace it, allow it, but that means letting it evolve, letting it develop, letting it open to more subtle realms. Because we can get to a place where we understand the hurt and we say, oh yeah, it reminds me of the way my mother used to treat me, I don't feel seen, or I really wanted to be friends and they don't, or whatever it is. But then we can go further. Once that understanding happens, we might feel better, or we might have a sense of well-being, but then what's the sense of well-being? What's that? And it means that's important too, not just getting to the point where the thing isn't bothering you anymore. That's just the beginning. Then the real door opens. Then the door to something else can be opened and walked through to more subtle realms of experience that actually is part of following the golden thread of truth in through that doorway. And that can take us into what we call essential realms.
Of course, a lot of people come to inner work because they want to get away from how they feel. They want to change a piece of how they feel, or they've got an idea that certain feelings are okay and certain feelings aren't okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting what you just said, that respecting any part of experience, mm-hmm. and anything can be a gateway into something else. That's often quite a revelation, I think, for people to understand that.
And it is some skill and attitude to learn. Most people don't come with it, because many people come in with all kind of judgments and rejection and acceptance and preferences and all of that. So part of what we call the inner work is learning how to be to embrace, and that we are an interconnected totality. So whatever we experience we have, it is connected with everything else in us, all the way to our deepest being. And that's why following the truth of our experience now, regardless of how superficial, how unimportant, or how painful it is, if we follow it, it will take us to some place deep, some place meaningful, that will be satisfying, will be human.
In a sense, that's a certain attitude, a certain way of someone being with their experience, which is, again, different. You know, it's like a lot of teachings will say, this is the experience you should be having. And if you're not having this experience, the kind of unsaid is you're doing something wrong. And what you're saying is that it's just, there's an attitude to whatever's there, to use that.
Yeah, it's an openness. And when I say there's a self-respect, it means including whatever is there, but it doesn't mean believing it. So self-respect is different than believing what you think, what you feel, and that the reality that you know is the one that you need to adhere to. It means being open to something else. That, yes, I feel sad, or I feel angry, or whatever it might be that's showing up at the surface. You embrace it, go into it, but it doesn't mean believing it and staying in it. It means holding it in a way that, what is the truth about this? So it's always brings more questions. There's always more questions.
And the process, when we really engage it and learn how to engage it, is an interesting, exciting kind of an adventure. And an adventure has challenges and difficulties, but it have also wonderful discoveries. It's a terrain of our experiential universe that we explore and we discover. And we find out that there's a lot more to us than appears at the surface. And even our most superficial things are really connected to some very deep underlying dynamics or dimensions of our being that we're not aware of yet. So it's very important for what we do that it is an adventure.
And
so we don't always know what's going to happen, and we don't need to know. The point of the adventure is that you don't know, and there's an excitement of you don't know what's going to happen next.
But it often feels like to the mind that we need, it takes a courage to
Yes.
let go of that needing to know what's going to happen next.
Well, courage and many other things.
Right.
Acceptance, openness, and those are ways that we need to approach our experience. But as we get more in touch with the essential realm, it becomes more natural to have that attitude, that informs us more. And sometimes when I talk to students about having an adventurous attitude, they say, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I'm having this huge bump in my life. This is not exciting, this is not very interesting. I said, well, you may not feel interested in the way that you would if you got something as a great gift in the mail and you're opening it up. But soon you'll learn that this is a great gift you're getting. And that by opening up your experience more and more, you begin to learn that when you hit a bump or you hit those difficult places, that there's something that's presenting itself in an awkward, painful, difficult way sometimes. It may not be wrapped in beautiful ribbons, but there's always a treasure within it, always.
Yeah, and part of the path is learning how to manage and deal with our difficulties.
Yeah, there's
with
always
our
pain.
difficult experiences, difficult situation in our life. As part of it, we have to learn how to do that because our work has to do with being in life, living life. So we have to learn how to live with the challenges and difficulties of life, and also how to utilize them at the same time, to learn more about life and ourselves and other people.
I mean,
But I find that actually many times joy and pleasure and the delight of being in touch with being is more difficult than people and their pain. People are actually attached to that. They're attached to the heaviness and the difficulty. And that's very interesting.
That's
too.
right. It can feel like if you're not suffering, you're not doing the work. I think that there's a whole story, I think. People
or somehow suffering and depth go together for people, but also just the fact that many people know themselves through their reactivity, not through their equanimity, not through their joy, their peacefulness, their kindness. Some people do. That's part of their image of themselves, that they're fun people or delightful people. But there's a way in which people are attached to those scratchy places and don't really know who they are without them.
Right, like if I'm not scared or hurting, who the hell am I then?
Yeah.
For some people. Yeah.
Right, and that also raises a kind of more fundamental question that I think often comes up for people, which is that we know ourselves as our story, our reactivity, and as we start to discover that's not who we are, that can be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm not all of these constructs, and it can often feel like there's a opening up of a nothingness. Often what then the tendency is to go back to what's known.
Right.
And we're talking, I guess, essentially about one of the key practices here of the teaching of inquiry and of staying with and following the thread. And maybe it's just worth saying a few words about that as a practice and kind of how someone can use that.
Well, one of the things about inquiry is that it is the real fuel of the adventure. It is the adventure. And it means learning how to go inward. And when you're on an adventure, when you get a flat tire and you go through all the things that you need to do to fix it, and you're sitting on the side of the road, and then you find these flowers that are beautiful, and all kinds of things that can happen. And when you get home, sometimes the difficulties are actually the things you're laughing about, looking at, and going, God, that flat tire happened. If it hadn't happened, I never would have met this person who was walking along the road. We had this great conversation. We all fixed the tire together, had lunch, and went on our merry way. Yes, we were 6 hours late. We missed the party, but we had this wonderful experience. You learn about inquiry by taking the road and what it offers you. Every bump, every rock, every flower, whatever's in there. So, like right now, if I'm feeling my experience, I can have an attitude of openness, like, what am I feeling? What is it today? What's happening right now? And it might not be a bump. It might not be a problem. Although one of the things that happens is people find at the beginning that they're running into their issues and difficulties and reactions, and then they get habituated to having to work through something to open up to something, rather than I just feel I'm openness. Oh, but I wonder what sort of openness that is. Rather than, okay, I'm open, that's good, this is cool. I think I'll just live my life from here. That's fine. But I want to know everything. I want to know, what is that? What kind? What's the feeling? How does it affect my body? How does it affect my sense of you? How does it affect my mind?
It's an important part of inquiry. That we're not just inquiring into our difficulties. We're inquiring also into our wonderful experiences. When we experience joy or love or expansion and peace, and we inquire into that. What is that? What does that feel like? What does it mean? Where is it coming from? What does it have to do with me? So we inquire into reality in its various manifestations. That's why it's an adventure. And we use skills and faculties we already have. Like we use our own curiosity, our own questioning capacity, our own sensitivity, our own empathy, our own intelligence, our own capacity to sense and feel ourselves. All these are capacities and faculties we have. We bring them together, and in the process of learning inquiry, those develop and become even sharper and more penetrating and more powerful, so that path happens and deepening and an expanding way to reveal both what is our story and what are we beyond our story.
One of the things that for me was really powerful, having been a student at the school for a number of years, was rather than having a kind of, there is a map, but a map as an orientation rather than a map as a doctrine. And to have suggestions that these are some of the things that may be experienced, but to really be encouraged to follow my own experience and to be curious about that and to open up to that. And again, it strikes me as a real difference between this path and a lot of other paths, that there's a value really placed on one's own experience and cultivating and developing that as a capacity, and it seems somehow there's a liberation in that there's not a constant need to go to a teacher or refer to a kind of textbook of this is what should be happening, but in a sense an endless inquiry that one can be their own captain of, in a sense.
Well, it's true. I think in the teaching, we do present various aspects of essence, different dimensions of experience, and people have a comparative mind to that still, because that's part of what goes on in the level of our conventional awareness. That we have a comparative mind, even if we're just putting on a map, and I think if any tradition does, there's always a comparison to, am I there yet? I should be experiencing this aspect. Oh, this weekend is on love, I should be feeling loving. I'm not, I'm feeling dense and solid and grounded. What's wrong with me? This isn't the right teaching. So people will continue to do that sort of thing, just because that's part of the way people are made up. But in terms of the actual journey, yes, it's to contact your experience as deeply as possible. And when we do that, our consciousness reveals itself. We don't have to try to dig in there and find something and pull it out. When we're open, interested, curious, just like when you're sitting with somebody, if they're interested in you, oh, that's nice. And then you feel like revealing things. And if you feel trusting, you'll reveal more. And if you feel their heart and their love, you feel like, anything's fine. And you notice you're telling them things that you've never told anybody before. And you'd only just met them. And you feel comfortable. And then you start feeling like you'd like to find out more about why you're so comfortable with them. And so things reveal, they come out just like you would with a friend. You need to learn to be your own friend that way, of having an attitude of bypassing the judgment we have a way of working with those, but to see that you're judging the way you ought to be rather than finding out what is. So we continually go into what is it now, and that reveals more information about itself. You get to a place where you're comfortable with the person, and then you go, this is too much. But they seem to be fun. This is too much. You realize, no, you've got a history of bondage to certain kinds of behavior, certain things you should share and not. It's the same way going inward, but it'll continue to reveal all the way to the absolute depth and beyond.
It also takes, it can sometimes take a lot of patience with ourselves as well, especially when we have a kind of repetitive life pattern, let's say, that we kind of go, God, like I'm back here. I've done the same thing again that I've done so many times before. And I'm wondering what supports developing. I guess it's partly the curiosity spoken of, but that softness and patience towards our experience, when the tendency can often be, we mentioned, to be critical or sometimes just hard, especially in life these days, everything's fast, it's quick, it's like, and having that softness towards ourselves seems like an important part of it.
Softness and steadfastness too. We learn to, part of the inquiry, we discover part of ourselves that help us be steady and steadfast and not swayed by difficulties and not lose heart because something seems to repeat itself. Even when it repeats itself, we know there is something yet we don't understand about it. So that opens our curiosity. What is it? What the hell is going on? Why is it coming back? Not in a rejecting way, but from the perspective of, what is it I don't get about it?
But some days it is. What the hell is going on here? And you get frustrated and you feel
Right.
angry about it. And sometimes you feel like that's a habit. It's habitual sometimes.
Yes.
Other times you see that, oh, I didn't see this piece. I bypassed that the whole time, and that keeps drawing me back. I want to remain the same person I am and have all the goodies.
That's right. That's exactly
And
what
that's
we want.
really a very common thing.
Yeah.
I want to just be a new and improved me.
Right. I want my life to change, but I don't want to have to be different.
Right.
Yeah.
I want everyone in my life to change, but I don't want to really change. And so there's many, many things that come out over time to see that we have preferences, we don't want to lose certain things. And really, real work, in my view, is being willing to lose everything.
Yeah. The practice of inquiry utilizes the knowledge of the laws or the principle that the mind uses to repetitiveness and conditioning and all of that. We learn all of that, but it also utilizes an important element, which is the fact that our true being has the inherent drive to reveal what it is itself. And that appears in us as wanting to know and as curiosity, but it is really coming from a deeper place most of the time at the beginning we're not aware of, that there is a powerful drive to actualize our potential. It's natural of our life force and the life force of our being.
And it loves to reveal itself. And the love comes through as a personal love for the truth, as we feel it at first. And then we realize that the revelation itself of being is love, is fueled by love.
And in a sense, it's, and I think I may have read this in one of your books, but it strikes me, it's like when one first has that experience, it is like another birth. It's like there's been a physical birth and a psychological birth, but there's something that, there's a discovery that there's something which is here, which is not me, which is palpable, which is actually can be a lived experience. And that is life-altering, in a sense.
That can change one's life in a radical way, because you find out that, wow, what I am is not what I have thought, what I have learned, what everybody else knows about me. And that's what's called awakening. You wake up to what is it that you really are. And that's both beautiful and could be scary at the same time.
But that's when the not me becomes, that is what I am. And that's the waking up. When you feel the palpable sense of what is there, what is real, beyond time, beyond space, beyond body, mind, emotions, all of the things that we've used to define ourselves. When we feel that and we wake up to the fact that that is what we are. Not when we feel it as not me, we're still something that's having that experience. When you wake up, you are it. It's no longer an experience had by somebody.
And how this new beingness lives the ordinary life that we have.
That was going to be my question, what that means in someone's life. It's like, who is it then that's living this life, and who's directing this life?
Who lives life will change as part of the path. We realize after a while we're living not as one we used to know ourselves to be, but like a new being. And interesting thing is that the new being we discover ourselves to be is inherently good, inherently has beauty and has wonderful human qualities, and that's the good news. That's why the spiritual work works. have meaning to them. 'Cause
By
what's-
in
yeah,
fact, by using life
yeah,
as our venue for inquiry and discovery, and using the daily tasks as ways of being present, but also the agitations that come up and the frustrations, is a way of winding in through our consciousness. And as we do that, it's not just to get to that essence, but it actually is transformative as we go.
Yes.
That we're transforming the individual consciousness as we go and find out what its essence is. So there's a real person that starts to develop, that's there in a personal way, but not as a separated individual any longer. So there's a development of our consciousness as we're going into deeper and deeper reality.
Yes. And one of the other...
yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, our authenticity that we discover, we might find out, is not like there's this real person there. We might find out that our authentic being is boundless, unbounded. It's the authentic being of everything. So that brings in what people call non-dual experience or unity of beings. And so that's a stage of discovery of oneself, that we are beyond the particulars of our individual experience now, or personal life. We are something really infinite in some sense, and with infinite potentiality, but living as a human being in this particular personal life that we have.
And we can feel we are the expanse living through that being.
Yes.
We can feel we are the being backed up by that expanse. But we can even go into it and feel something different than either one of those.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with expanse or personal, or we can feel like we're anything at any time.
And one of the things I also wanted to just step back to as well is we've talked quite a bit about inquiry. There's another key practice in the school, the practice of sensing.
Right.
And I wanted to touch on that as well, because I think one of the challenges that people have is, especially these days, life is so noisy. I mean, literally noisy on the outside, also noisy on the inside, distractions and everything that's going on. And it's one thing that people have experiences in their meditation practice or experiences on retreat, and it's they feel more contact and they feel close to what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's more difficult in the kind of midst of life. Certainly personally, the sensing practice has been a very helpful way of integrating. Maybe perhaps say a few words about that.
Well, the idea is that life has its difficulties, and we don't deny it, and we're not going to try to get rid of them. We're trying to understand them, because those difficulties are stepping stones to some new things, new horizons of experience. And so that's why there's no rejection of anything from the beginning. No rejection doesn't mean this is the way it is not going to change. Reality is always changing without us trying to change it. It will change by the mere fact of us understanding it fully. And so, but we do, as you said, brings in other practices. We have the main practice of inquiry, but we also utilize some of the classic meditation methods and to help develop certain capacities, to help to stabilize our sense of attention and concentration, and to be able to be present. So we utilize those as supports for the primary practice that we call inquiry, which is not what most people actually think of inquiry. Many people hear the word inquiry and they think they know it. And they have to listen to us as we talk to see you. Is it what they usually think of as inquiry? Because most people, when they think of inquiry, they think of mental exploration. we're talking about inquiry that involves the totality of experience and on life. It's a very experiential, very immediate, to really inquire into your own experience. Most people don't do that. They don't know how to do that.
And it requires using the mind, the heart, and the body in it. As Hamid was saying, you need the totality of you to go into it. The discrimination of mind, the heart, the sensitivity, the love, and the sensations that bring us a lot of information, the tension patterns that we're in, the shapes that we adopt. Tell us something about what we're experiencing that sometimes our mind is not aware of and can't be aware of on its own. But the discrimination can be, oh, I'm feeling like a crunched up little person today. I wonder what that's about, instead of, okay, straighten up. It's more using that ability to go into experience is what the mind offers, but also we need to be able to feel, I really want to know. This is very interesting. And to have that kind of a attitude of discovery. I want to discover what this is. Takes a softness and a kindness to be able to go into those places.
Yeah. So a discovery is different from trying to get to some place to experience a certain particular state of consciousness, which many teachings have an aim. They do this and this to get there. Discovery means we don't know what we're going to find out. It's going to be a surprise. And that is, for us, part of the joy of the path.
In fact, when many people get into, they go past their issue, they get into some kind of openness, and then some sort of bubbling up starts to happen from within. And this golden nectar might show up. It's like, wow, what is this? And I might ask the student, well, what does it feel like? Instead of saying, oh, that's love, and that makes you feel good. It's like, no, well, what does it feels good? Well, what kind of good is that?
Right.
Well, it feels melty and sweet, and this is actually what I really wanted from my husband, and that's why I was angry that he wasn't feeling sweet and loving and mergy with me, but I feel so good, it feels satisfying. I don't feel like I need that from him. Oh, well, that's interesting. It is the resolution to the issue, but then it also shows us something about ourselves that's true, that's real, that's authentic. So we're not just wanting to have a better life. It's a real life with the qualities that emerge from within us.
Yes, and that's also, it strikes me, where a teacher and a teaching is also very supportive. Because, I can say from personal experience here, the tendency could be to miss the piece you just described, and to kind of go, oh, now there's resolution, or to go on to the next thing. To actually have someone to invite the exploration of what's arising, which is part of the transformation, in a sense. And perhaps I want to come to, in closing in a moment, how people can find out more about the work that you guys teach, but maybe just a few words on that, of the role that a teacher can provide in that guidance and that sometimes modeling, I guess, and sometimes supporting.
Yeah, a teacher helps the student to inquire with themselves, that they learn how to do that, and they're trained to move through the content and help the student to continue beyond that content. But it's not just the skill comes from them having the presence and the clarity themselves, because the presence is the teacher. That is what does it. When I'm sitting with a student, the arising of what's there is what's doing it. So what you perceive as me, as an individual person, you might see as a separated body or whatever. Even if I don't experience myself that way, that's how it's perceived. But it's the presence that shows up, and I never know what that's going to be. It's what arises, and even if I'm not a separated person sitting here, I can't determine that. I can just be an openness that enables that to occur, and that's what's needed for the student. So our teachers can help provide by being able to be present, be with someone, and help to discriminate, help them get more in touch, teach them how to sense. We use breath work, we get into the body. So we have many different techniques we use, but ultimately the presence is the teacher, and it's useful to have somebody with you.
And the teacher for us is not modeled on the guru idea. The teacher for us is not a guru, although there is something of the guru is in the teacher, in the sense that the teacher does embody the teaching, does have the realization of the teaching is being themselves, and because of that they have the capacity for what we call direct transmission, in the sense they're present, they're teaching, there is something energetic, something of pure consciousness comes through that the student can wake up to. But also teachers are mostly like a guide and a friend along the road of life, of experience. You see, have some of the guru, but it's not really the role of a guru. Relationship of the student to the teacher is not like to a guru. It's more like to somebody who is guiding you and who is helping you and assisting you, and as a friend, and a relationship develops where there is a trust, where the student can reveal their vulnerabilities and their secrets, so that the life so that the teacher can help them navigate and teach them the skills of how to navigate.
But it's a friendship in the sense that it's a sacred friendship, not a social friendship. And so there's a importance of the role, but the more the teacher is developed, the more that role is not an adaptation to a particular stance. It's an actual function. And also students in our school use each other when we do exercises. So it's not just about the teacher. The teaching is alive and it comes through in various ways. And one of them is the transmission of the teaching, when a teacher is providing the teaching. But there's also doing exercises with one another, and the way that we provide a certain way for that to happen, students become more and more present with each other, give each other feedback, learn how to provide optimizing feedback and questions. And so that's another way that the work works, is through students, through various small groups, larger groups. So there's a lot of different ways that we invite essence to impact us.
There's also a field as well.
The field develops, yes.
Yeah. There's one thing about where we work, where we practice, is that which is different from many other traditions, which is we don't dismiss the mind, the intellect. We don't devalue it. It's true that the mind intellect can be an obstacle, and frequently it's an obstacle, but we learn how to utilize it for the practice, because there's something real about it. The question is how to relate to it in such a way and use it in a way that helps us discover further what is the meaning and the truth of our selves and of reality, and instead of becoming a barrier that we have to set aside or get rid of.
Including what is a true mind, what's a true heart, what's a true body, what does that mean? And the more we actually use mind, the more we begin to see, as we discriminate our experience, that true mind functions with heart. That the two, it's a marriage made in heaven. That it's, the heart knows the truth in a way mind can't. It knows the direction toward its beloved. And its beloved is to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the mystery, even beyond the mystery, through the mystery, into whole new paradigms. And the heart is what gives us the light that goes in the direction. And the mind brings the discernment. Together they are the spiritual astrolabe.
It's beautiful. So just mindful of time. people that are interested to explore more about the approach, maybe just say a few words about there's different groups around the world, and that's a great way, I guess, for people to kind of taste more, let's say.
There's lots of ways. I mean, the Ridwan School is the structure we function through, and we have groups all over the world. Internet's a great source of information, and we show up there. I don't know, any other ideas?
Yeah, people can find out about the Ridwan School or Ridwan Foundation or a Diamond Approach, and that will take them to the primary organization that we call Ridwan Foundation. And there are also many teachers who teach various degrees of relationship to the center of the school. So there are groups around the world, and local groups that meet in weekends, so people don't have to miss work. And there are groups that are more of an international population in it, and those meet in retreats like 2 or 3 times a year only, because people come from many parts of the world. At the same time, we have what we call private teaching sessions, where a student meets with a particular teacher for an hour regularly, a couple of times a month or something like that. That way they get very specific, personalized guidance to themselves, which doesn't happen in a group.
And there's lots of books from the Diamond Portal here.
That's right.
So there's lots of books, and they can get online and see what they are.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and we look forward to talking with you again, hopefully very soon, on Conscious Tea. Bye-bye.